Welcome to the Lighthouse Financial Advisors Money Over 50 podcast with Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Lighthouse Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50 with Michael, and recorded on location from our respective spare bedrooms.
I was about to say, are you going to call it a home office? Because that makes it sound much more technical. What it actually is, I'm hiding out in our bedroom because our child's got a play school cranked up in the background. So hopefully no one can hear that, and I've been able to get away from enough noise.
I'm in the main bedroom because it's the only one that has a lock on it, and I need to lock it so that Richie and Margot don't come in. It was really funny because I was listening to a podcast that you put me onto the other night from America. I don't know if we've mentioned this on the, and I'm really familiar with the movies Frozen and Frozen 2 now, because they tend to get played every day at lunchtime at my house. Yeah. So the kids love those Disney movies. Disney are really good at capturing that young audience. So I was listening to this podcast and I could hear in the background one of the hit songs from Frozen 2.
You would almost start singing along, mate.
I started singing along. I knew this guy who was a serious financial professional in Manhattan, New York, was actually recording from his bedroom as well. So
hopefully we've got away from enough noise. But if you hear that in the background, that's probably what's going on there.
That's why. Yeah, we actually have Barbie Dolphin Magic on in the lounge right now. So if you hear any songs, you'll be able to put it. You'll know it's from Barbie Dolphin Magic. So,
all right.
In all seriousness,
other than watching Play School, what do we want to talk about today?
Yeah, and you have Play School on. So, what we're here to talk about today is look, why now could be a really good time to either establish a retirement plan, or to review it, or to enhance it. So, Dallas, this is your topic. So I'll throw to you to start with.
Yeah. So what got me thinking about this was what tends to happen is that in sort of times of, I guess, uncertainty for a lot of people, what happens is human beings, when we're under pressure or under uncertainty, we tend to narrow our focus into the immediate future and what has to happen right now. And so obviously over the last few weeks, that's kind of where all our attention has been. As a society, it's been basically, how do we just get through the immediate now? And is my job safe? And what am I going to do for money? And is my family going to be fit and healthy and all the rest of it? And what do I need to do, health-wise, all that kind of thing. So, but I was watching the press conference last night with Scott Morrison, talking about how, we just have to get used to the fact that this is a new way to live for, what he was sort of talking about was the next 6 months. And it got me thinking that what's going to start to happen, I think, over the next few weeks is that we'll start to get in a bit of a rhythm of, things are going to be a bit different for some people, both health-wise and economically. It's going to be a bit of a tough time. But we are going to, at some stage next few weeks, come out to the side where people start to then think again about the future and go, okay, well, the immediate crisis has passed. We know what we need to do. Everything's all kind of a bit organised. And what you actually find is that I was thinking about this, and for a lot of people, this could be a fantastic opportunity for them to get started for their retirement planning. And one of the main reasons, there's a few reasons that I could think of. One of the main ones is time. So for most people that we talk to, Michael, and I'm sure it's the same for you, when they come in and see us for the first time, it's normally sort of sometime in their 50s. And when you ask, why now? Sometimes it'll be for a financial, there's a catalyst that's happened, but in a lot of other cases, they'll go, geez, we've been we've been meaning to do this for years. Well, we spoke about it every 6 months for the last 3 years, and now we've just had a chance to actually get organised, or we've just had a bit of breathing room, and now we can do it. So for a lot of people that come in and see us, they are focused on other things in their life. They're having a good time. They're traveling. They're playing sports. They're going to boot camps. They're doing all those sorts of things. And as is always the way, some of the things like planning for your retirement could just get put on the back burner when you don't have time. Now, at the moment, we've got nothing but time. If you're lucky enough to still be working, then that's great. You've got that. But other than that, there is literally nothing else that you can do at the moment. So time is something that we all have a bit more of at the moment.
Look, it's one of the things that we find that people tend to focus on anytime something perceived negative, and of course, what's happening now around the world is far more negative than it is positive.
Yeah,
there is always another side to the coin, though. In any negative, there is a positive. So one of the positives right now is that, you do have time and you are forced to be close to your loved ones. And there's no better time than to talk about some of these things now. So, and to start with a true retirement plan is often
what do you want your life to look like?
Sit around the table with your spouse and talk about some things that you just don't get time to do.
That's exactly right.
As life gets in the way. And I mean, there's other. I read yesterday that there's other benefits in terms of people are getting to know their neighbours that they've never ever known beforehand because everyone's forced into self-isolation. So look, it's a good chance to actually sit down and actually start to talk about that with your spouse.
Yeah, and I think the point, even before you have that, for most people, like you would have seen this when they would come meet us for the first time. Sometimes the questions that we ask are sort of basic about, what do you plan to do in retirement? And you can tell that people just haven't had the time or the mental energy to really think about personally what do they want their life to look like. And so I think part of the reason why this time or this space to think about it is so effective is because this is, to some degree, the things that people might think they want in retirement, they're probably being proven right now they don't. So, we often have this where you say to people, what are you going to do when you retire? And they say, I'll just, go and I'll read books. And you go, okay, well, once you've read a book for 2 days, like I love reading books more than anyone. Once you've read a book for 2 days straight, you're ready to do something else. So all of these types of things, you're sort of getting to experience a more relaxed pace of life that might be what you sort of thought your retirement, you want it to look like. So it's kind of a good chance to not just think about and discuss what you think you wanted to do in retirement, but also to sort of test that in real time and go, well, do I actually enjoy the things that I thought I would want to spend a lot of time doing in retirement?
You're getting a really small glimpse of what retired life would be. And of course, some people are still working from home, and if you can, there's obviously some occupations where you can't actually work from home because you physically can't get anything done, of course. But look, it is a good. You raise an interesting point there. Right now, ahead of time, you're actually getting a glimpse into what the normal day of a fully retired life would be. So
well,
and it's very difficult for people to say at age 50 what they think they really would want to do in retirement. Sorry, mate, I stole your point.
Well, I was just about to say, we discussed this in a previous podcast, talking about the same sort of thing when you go on holidays. If you have a couple of weeks off work, you sort of start to realize how much of your day-to-day life and how much of your identity and your energy is taken up by your work. And when that's gone, what is going to sort of fill that void? And so I think it's a similar, like, again, for me personally, this has been a good experience working from home. It's been again proven to me that I really don't have in a perfect world, I wouldn't ever fully retire. I think, and we've spoken about this before, where I can't foresee a time when I wouldn't enjoy doing something something like this for a couple or a few hours a day. And so it's all that sort of thing with people where they might go, well, I planned to work full time until a certain age and then fully retire. People might be rethinking that right now. And there are people who are being, who are being cut back to working 3 or 4 days a week. They might find that they actually love that and go, well, maybe I'll leave it at 3 or 4 days a week and I'll just work for an extra 5 years longer than I thought. It's a really interesting experiment, I think.
We've spoken at length during many podcasts about the shift that we've seen away from full-time work up until that point in time on your 65th birthday, and then full-time retirement from that point on. And, we've spoken about people in their 60s even who leave the hectic 50-hour a week job
full-time
in
model,
obviously their high position that they're in. They've risen to that point in time, start a consulting business where they work 3 days a week on average, or they work full on for 3 months and then finish a project, then have a couple of weeks off and then try and get into another project after that. So the notion was already there. Look, I'm with you. I've loved just this. I've only done 1 week of working from home. You've obviously done, this is your third week. You flew back from Japan and missed the cutoff by 5 hours.
That's right.
So you had to self-isolate for 14 days. So this is the end of your third week. Monday and Tuesday of this week, trying to work from home with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, even though my wife's at home, I got really, really frustrated because I was trying to be as productive as I am in the office, and then I just gave up. And I was okay. I'll be productive in the morning. I can lock the door for a while. I'm productive again after the kids go to bed at night. So from 7:30 p.m. till about 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m. In between, I do little bits and pieces where I can, and then I let go on Wednesday. So it's been Wednesday, Thursday had really good days. And it's been really good, and the positive of that is I've got to spend a little bit more time with my kids and my wife, and I haven't been anywhere near as productive, of course, but that's life at the moment. And look, I'm with you. I never plan to retire. Which for our clients, oftentimes it's one of their biggest concerns that they. When are you going to retire? So they want you to keep working for the rest of your life. So look, that's an aside, but it's look, I think people are going to come out of this, and there's going to be corporations come out of this as well and say, look, this experiment of our entire workforce working from home was forced upon us. But the positives out of that are that, hey, it worked. I
think that, and that's the point that you made before, that there is obviously some terrible things that have come out of this crisis, but that's happened. All we can now do is look at the positives of it and kind of go. And I think it's like you say, these experiments of, if someone had said to me a month ago, hey, you've got to work from home for 3 weeks, I would have gone, no, I can't, because I've got to do these things and I've got to do these things. And it's sort of like you're saying, a lot of these experiments that are forced on us, both from a work point of view, it makes you realize how you can do different things and how to make things happen remotely and all that kind of thing. But also just lifestyle wise, things that you might not have realized you enjoyed, or things that you start to think, well, I could potentially bring this in the future in how I structure my days or my weeks. So I think that's kind of you're probably getting a bit off the main point that I was making there, which is that we have more time to think about it, but we have more time to think about it at a time while we're actually running these experiments and trying different things. So rather than just treating it as, this is a bit of a painful thing that we've got to get through, I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of people who are, in their 50s to go, well, what do I really want in 5-10 years time? And will I really enjoy that once I've got it? So I guess that's the first point that I wanted to bring up. Do you have anything to add to that? Because that flows very neatly into my next point.
No, go ahead.
No, so we're talking about this as assuming everyone who talking about all the positives. The downside is that if your employer has said that you've got to work from home, but you've got to work 3 or 4 days a week, that's normally not just because they want to be nice to you because you're going to work from home. That's because you've had to take a pay cut as well. And so the second part of this, where again, it's painful for a lot of people, but having a chance to really reset your budget and what you're spending money on and how much you're spending is also an opportunity at this point in time. So, and this was kind of your point. You discussed this when we were talking previously about sometimes, making changes around the edges of things can be harder than just having to cut to zero and go, okay, well, what are the essentials in my life?
The first half of this podcast was very philosophical, wasn't it? And now we're getting to the practical. So I think this is probably the halfway point. So, look, I find tremendous value in actually taking a budget and looking at it and starting again and striking a line through anything that, even if you think it is essential at this point in time, strike a line through it. Yeah, because you can always get it back. So, just some quick examples of that might be, $100 a month internet package. Yeah. So have a look at that, and you might see your usage is only half of that. So go back to $50 a month, and you can always at the drop of a hat increase that back up again. Yeah. Phone plans. You've got things like pay TV and all of those types of things. So it's a really good test to strike a line through that. And I mean, just get it completely out of your budget and pare your budget back to the bare minimum, because anytime you want to re-engage those services, look, those corporations will take you back.
Absolutely, with open arms. Yeah.
Well, so I think that's a great opportunity to review some things at this stage and to really, really pare back on your budget. Look, knowing that in times when your income is increasing, just natural creep occurs into your budget where you sign up for this, you sign up for that, you sign up for the more expensive option here and there. All of those things occur at that point in time, and your expenses just naturally expand to fill your income. So you mentioned before there'd be people that have moved back to 3 days a week. So you'd be doing this right now out of necessity, because your income is 3/5 theoretically of what it was before. Even for people that their income is still 5/5 or 100% of what it was, there's been no change to their income. Look, it's a really good opportunity to do this right now as well, because we mentioned before that you do have time.
You got time, and don't you think that's really the biggest issue for most people? Like when you say to people, you should look at where you're spending money and whether there's any scope to cut back. No one says no, that's a terrible idea. What tends to happen is people go, yeah, that's a good idea. We just got to find the time to do it, or we just got to organize the time to make that happen. When you're stuck in your house and you can't go anywhere, it's probably the first chance that a lot of people will have where they may well get so bored that they actually want to look at their budget. Probably not, but maybe.
Look, and you hate diving in or delving into the weeds here. You like to be flying from your 30,000 foot view over. So allow me to jump into the weeds. So I've got some practical measures here. Yeah. Look, there's things to just forget about, such as council rates, for example. They are what they're going to be.
Can we just refer people to our other podcast where you've talked about
this already, mate? We can. I just want to quickly, because Dallas really hates talking about this sort of stuff. Look, it's now is a good time to review your insurances, so your medical and health insurance. Obviously, you don't want to be careful there, because you don't want to take some benefits away, especially in a time like this. But they're the types of things that just naturally creep up in terms of premiums, home and contents insurance as well, and vehicle insurance. So those types of things. Look, you get the renewal notice every year, and you're so busy that you don't have time to shop those around. So now's a really good time to shop those around and actually compare different benefits. Yep. Petrol will take care of itself. You can't go anywhere, or you can't drive. So that should be a lower expense. Yeah. Things like fitness. Now, I'm all for supporting local businesses, of course, but I mean, you physically just can't go and do your boot camps at the moment, or go to the gym. So have a look at that. if you can, if you can scale that back, then it's a good time to do that. Club memberships, they're types of things that creep in over time, and any type of subscription. Gifts is one of those ones where forced social gatherings, which are basically off the table at the moment.
You know how I feel about gifts. It's bizarre.
Oh, there's just so much pressure to give gifts, and look, I can't stand gifts. I can't stand the pressure of gifts. Like, there's just so many times now. My mother-in-law, who's retired, for my birthday and for Christmas every year, tries to give me cash, and I'm like,
I'm a 45-year-old man. I don't need your retired.
Like, plus a present. So so I give it back to her, and I tell her she's naughty for doing it, and just cease and desist. But there's just such a pressure to give gifts, and for some people, we see that go into the thousands of dollars a year. So we see that up around $3,000 a year for people, and when you actually go through it with them, they say, no, it's not that much, but it is when they're giving gifts to quite a lot of people and extended family members.
I'm in the zone now of, first and second birthday parties. It seems like there's one of them on every week, and you kind of go. There's always a pressure for a present or something or a gift or whatever. But I think that the like you said, I never want to get in the weeds on budgeting, but what I thought about with this, that is there's two parts to it. For a lot of people, the time is the issue, is the reason they haven't looked at their budget so far. And the second part, the second reason they haven't really looked at their budget is because every time they do, they end up having an argument with their husband or their wife. And so I think the good opportunity here is, if your income has been reduced, it's sort of, it almost provides you with a bit of a common enemy. It doesn't become a situation where you're going, hey, let's talk about our budget. You spend too much money. You need to cut this out. It's basically a shared problem that you go, look, our pay is going to drop by, as you said, 20% or 40% or whatever. We need to work together to find out a way to make this happen. And it gives you an opportunity to tie all that in, where you go, okay, well, because it's such a big cut, you then have to go back to basics and go, let's put a line through everything and let's just add back things in as they become absolutely essential to us. And you sort of find that these sorts of things tend to get couples working together on a shared goal or a shared incentive of, we just have to make this work together, rather than it becoming a point scoring thing of, well, you get to spend this much, so I want to spend that much on a similar sort of thing. So I think I
agree. When it's been thrust upon you, the real silver lining is that you have to do it. So you have to scale back to if your income is now only 80% of what it previously was, you actually get forced to scale back.
That's right. Whereas if you're the saver in your couple and you just say, I think we need to save 20%, you're fighting an uphill battle, because it sounds like you making a commandment from on high to say we should be doing this.
The real silver lining is that if you have a pay cut, whilst it's never great, the silver lining is that you're forced to cut back to, in this example, 80% of what your previous spend was. So when your income goes back to 100% of what it is, you overnight have a spare 20% of your income now. And my thoughts to that would be, with a little bit of uncertainty, the safe way to go would be just to set up a separate bank account called, and nickname it retirement planning account. And go through your budget, everything that you cut, what you want to do. If you're still on the full income, and you're doing this, so if your income hasn't changed at all, what you want to do is that every time you pick up a $50 saving here, $100 saving here, add that up. And if that all adds up to $500 a fortnight, for example, that you've saved by reviewing your budget, then just simply set up every time you receive your fortnightly pay, set up an automatic transfer of $500, which is the cumulative saving that you've just stripped out of your budget, and have that pushed into your separate bank account called retirement planning account. Now, this is called a stress test. So you stress test that for a period of time. So it might be 6 fortnights, and you find that what we find when we make significant changes with our clients' budgets, we find that they do it standing on their head usually.
Yeah.
So, what I think you'd find is that you would do it standing on your head. You'd find that was pretty easy because, you've made those changes and to an extent, whatever's left over in your pay account after that money's been transferred anyway is largely what people spend.
Yeah, and that actually very neatly ties into my next point, that when I was thinking about this the other day, which is that that's the short term, as you said, as a short term stress test. What you want to do is take that money and just tip into a bank account and make sure that you are able to do that. The long term way to look at that then is obviously that's where a financial planner could be talking to you about what is the best use of that $500 a fortnight. And this is where we've talked previously about the tax savings and those kinds of things that are available. So obviously they're making that as a contribution to super versus saving your bank account. The real one of the things that I thought about as to why right now is a great time to get started with this is that for most people, the majority of your retirement savings needs to be invested in the top companies across Australia and around the world. Now, we've just had in the Australian share market a drop of about 30%. So companies that you were buying for $1 a month ago, you're now buying for 70 cents. So if you now take this opportunity to free up some cash flow and are able to be putting that aside and saving that for your retirement, you're essentially buying into those assets for 70 cents on the dollar. So it's like they're on sale right now.
Yes. Look, it's a fantastic time to start putting money into your superannuation. And for someone, look, the benefits right now, you just mentioned that benefit, Dallas. So for someone who hasn't maximizing their $25,000 a year concessional contribution limits, which I just heard a whole lot of people tune out when I said concessional contribution limits. So here's the benefit. So so if you're not doing that now, for a husband and wife, a typical couple, they can put in $15,000 each to their superannuation fund over the course of the year, generally on average. And as you said, so that's $30,000 combined. They're buying in at the moment for 70 cents in the dollars. So they're buying in 30% more if they're spreading that money across the great companies of Australia and the world. Further to that, whatever their marginal rate of tax is, which is generally 34.5% to 39%, they're going to get that marginal rate of tax back on that contribution. And there's a little bit more involved in it. So don't just assume you can throw $30,000 in because you have to fit under those $25,000 each concessional contribution caps. But it's a tremendous thing. So you're throwing the money in. Even let's use 10,000 as an example. So you're investing $10,000 in. It does get taxed at 15%, but you're buying with the remainder of that money. You're buying in at 30% reduced prices right now. And then outside, you claim that as a tax deduction. So you're getting back 34.5% to 39% of that on average of that amount that you put in. So somewhere in the vicinity of an extra tax return of $3,450 to $3,900 extra back in personal tax per $10,000 invested. So,
and it's really one of those things where you go, for most people, you really need an incentive to make those sorts of things. And so if you think of those two things working together in tandem, it's a really good way to get motivated to get started now, is to go, not only am I getting a 30% discount on the assets that I'm buying, I'm also getting a 34.5 or a 39% saving on that tax saving on that money. So the combination of those two things is a really powerful reason to get started on that now. So,
and one of the good things, because people are inevitably worried during times like this, okay, what if I can't afford to put that money into superannuation in the future? I think some people feel that they're locked into doing that, and we say, no, you're not locked into anything. So if you get paid fortnightly, and we work out that you need to put in $15,000 to your superannuation fund to take advantage of your full tax deductions that you can take advantage of for the year. You split that up into 26 fortnights, and you divide 15,000 by 26 fortnights. And that's the amount that you voluntarily every fortnight push into your superannuation fund. Now, should your pay change, should your situation change where you take a pay cut or anything like that, you can pause that, or you can dial it back. You can stop it altogether, which is a really powerful thing. And people often are surprised at that. And I think why they're surprised at that is because many people, as an alternative to putting money into superannuation, borrow to buy a rental property, and
you don't have that. You don't have that option.
You don't have that
to switch that off
at that point in time. You can't switch that off because you have
the point I just want to make there about, and it ties into that budgeting piece, is that it's funny because people will often worry about going, okay, well, if I start saving this money and putting it into super, what if I can't access it, in the future if I need to? But normally what's actually happening is at the moment, they're not saving that money at all. So
that's right.
If you're saving money every fortnight and putting it into super, which is, there are clients of ours now, their income's dropping that were putting money in super. They've had to switch that off. Now, they're at least in a much better position because they're used to living on that income. All they've done is they've switched off the contribution to super. They're now living on probably a similar amount. If they hadn't been making that contribution to super, there's no way they were going to save that money. They would have just spent it. And now they'd be in a position where they're scratching, trying to find a way to live on that reduced income. So I think it's basically my attitude, as you said, it's that you put that money into super. If you need to switch that off, you can always adjust as we're going along, but you're then in the zone of being able to live on that reduced income. So there's no real downside to it from that perspective. So now, and this ties into the final point that I wanted to make here as to why now is a good time to make this happen, is that, so for most people, like we were just saying, you find that you stress about things that you can't control. And that's human nature 101, is that there's just so many things that are going on at the moment that you read the news and you read the headlines, and share prices are down, and the economy's struggling, and I don't know what my employer's going to be doing, and I don't know what my kids' employers are going to be doing. I don't know all these different things. For most people, being able to take control of something is a real source of comfort in a time like this, and peace of mind is the term that we use all the time. So looking at this now is not, you might not necessarily have all the answers. So there might not be a huge amount that you can actually take charge of and can do right now while your income's dropped, or when you're worried your income is going to drop. But at least getting a plan in place, giving some real thought to this, allows you to sort of take back a sense of control of your situation. Go, okay, well, there are some things that I can't necessarily fix right now, but everything that I can be doing, I'm taking advantage of it now. I'm doing everything I can to put myself in the best position. And when things change and when things recover and pick back up, I'm going to be positioned to take full advantage of that.
It's a fantastic point, because we talk all the time about how people think external forces are at control and are going to dictate whether they retire successfully or retire unsuccessfully. We know that the largest weighting to someone's retirement success is their how good they are at actually keeping their expenses to a minimum, controlling things that they can control, which is how much they spend every fortnight, how much they save, how much they can put in their super fund. So we know that's the biggest determinant by far. So it's really it is a good point to wrap up in terms of there's so many things that are outside of our control right now. How far will investment markets fall? When will they recover? How will we go into a recession? How deep will that be? All those types of things out of our control. What is in our control right now is to a large extent.
Do I have a plan? Am I sticking to that plan? Am I doing everything I can?
Yeah, and a big part of that certainly is how much is coming in and how much is going out the door in expenses. So now's a really good time to do that from a practical matter, but then also to get a plan into place. So if you haven't got a plan in place, I think that I'm stealing your point here, but that's
that's exactly what I was saying. Is we're unsurprisingly we're on the same page there.
Yeah. Would you like to add anything, Dallas, at this point in time?
I think those are the main point, and I mean, unsurprisingly, we've probably talked for 40 minutes here, and then I'll wrap up and say there's only 3 points, and so but I guess for anyone who's sitting there, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, and if you're feeling like there's just so much happening that's outside of your control, we think now is a great opportunity to take charge and to really do some thinking about your future and whether you're on track and what you can be doing. If you want to speak to us, obviously, we're not doing in-person meetings, but we are doing phone meetings, we are doing Zoom meetings with new clients. So if you're sitting around and thinking, I'd like to get some guidance on what I need to be focused on now, we're only too happy to help, even whether it's just a phone call at this stage and say, here are some of the things to think about, and then in the future you come back and talk to us then. We'd only be too happy to have that conversation with people to help them work out what they really need to be focused on, and take back a bit of, I think, control or a feeling of peace of mind that they are in charge of their own destiny.
Look, we have the time at the moment to actually speak with, and
it's one thing we're not short of, yeah.
And if you're listening, I'm guessing you have the time as well. So look, it is a good time to actually to make contact with us, and would be, as Del said, would only be too happy to have a conversation. Yeah. And I'm surprised at how remarkably well it's worked since we've moved to working from home. Yeah. It does work really well with Zoom meeting, where people can see our screens and what we're looking at, and just even the good old fashioned phone call has worked really well as well. So you happy to wrap up there, Dallas?
Great place to wrap up.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Lighthouse Financial Advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.